I want to expose the anatomy of a Trump smear campaign to try to cover up the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files that the Trump administration Attorney General Pam Bondi said was going to be released last week, as did the MAGA Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. Instead of turning over the Epstein files, they handed over a binder to a bunch of MAGA Republican influencers who went to the White House. The binder was printed out by Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, so she knew what she was doing when she gave this to them. It said Epstein files, the most transparent presidency in history, and it wasn't the files. It was a small binder that was Epstein's call list, which was redacted, which, by the way, had Donald Trump's name on it within the redactions, and it was produced back in 2021 in connection with other Epstein cases like the Ghislaine Maxwell criminal case. Now, we know that Donald Trump does not want the Epstein files released. He said in interviews with Fox that he says, not sure if all those things are really true, what they say about those people. You know how that is. He said words to that effect. But look, Trump was good friends with Epstein. From the cases that have already had documents released involving Epstein, we know that Trump's on the flight log. He's in deposition testimony. He's on call logs. Trump said that Epstein is a great guy who likes women on the younger side. We know that Epstein was on Trump's jet. In the Ghislaine Maxwell criminal case, Trump wished Ghislaine Maxwell well at a press conference. There was a woman who testified at the Ghislaine Maxwell criminal case who said when she was 14 years old, Epstein brought her to meet Donald Trump. We don't know much more other than that. We know that Epstein would find his victims who he would traffic. He'd find them at Mar-a-Lago, some of them, like Virginia Giuffre, who was homeless, then worked in Mar-a-Lago, and then Ghislaine Maxwell found her at Mar-a-Lago and brought her to Epstein, and Epstein trafficked her. We know at least that's one example where a girl was found at Mar-a-Lago to traffic. So we know there are all of these connections. And so one would assume that if there is terabytes of other documents out there with witness statements, grand jury testimony, photographs, emails, text messages, that Trump's name may be in that batch of documents, which remains under seal and has not been produced publicly. So I never believed those documents were ever going to be released. And obviously, when they pulled that stunt at the White House and they held up, the binders, they were just trying to deceive the public. Well, that didn't work. So they had to come up with a plan, right? And what was their plan? It's like a Ponzi scheme of conspiracy theories with these MAGAs and with Trump. So we had to kind of get people all worked up. Who were they going to blame it on for the fact that they didn't produce these records? They had to blame it on somebody. The deep state, right? That's usually where they go. And they blame things on the FBI and the Department of Justice. So that's what went down. So they came up with the plan. Let's blame the FBI. Let's blame the DOJ. Let's blame the deep state and say they're hiding these Epstein files. That's why it wasn't turned over last week. But which DOJ, which FBI are they going to blame? Well, they're going to blame the FBI and DOJ in New York. Why? Because the Southern District of New York federal prosecutors, they stood up to Donald Trump last month when Donald Trump wanted them to dismiss the criminal case against Mayor Eric Adams, the corrupt mayor who was going to do the quid pro quo bidding of Donald Trump and the various MAGA agendas in New York. They refused to dismiss the case. They resigned from their positions, those federal prosecutors. So they were a target that Trump, Pam Bondi, and others in his current administration would blame them. Who else were they going to blame? Well, they always attack law enforcement and the FBI. So they blame the FBI field office in New York, which is led by a Marine veteran, a very well-respected FBI agent, who stood up for the other FBI agents last week, an FBI agent by the name of James Dennehy, Remember that name, James Dennehy, when Donald Trump and his administration, his regime, they were demanding a list of the FBI agents who were involved in January 6 cases to fire them immediately. The assistant FBI director, James Dennehy, who works and leads the New York field office, he refused to turn it over. He told the FBI agents to dig in, to keep their independence and resist Trump's attempt at going into this witch hunt to try to find which FBI agents were working on the J6 cases, because Trump supports the January 6 terrorists and insurrectionists and attacks the FBI agents. Remember the memo he wrote in February? Today we find ourselves in the middle of a battle of our own, as good people are being walked out of the FBI and others are being targeted because they did their jobs in accordance with the law and policy. So last month, after the Trump DOJ and allies ordered the creation of a list of the 5,000 plus FBI agents, employees who were part of the January 6 probe, Dennehy defended the FBI agents. So they wanted to push Dennehy out. Ken Delaney got the scoop, and he wrote, top FBI official who defiantly proclaimed last month he was prepared to, quote, dig in for a battle with the Trump administration over its request for the names of FBI agents who worked on January 6 cases, has retired under pressure as the leader of the New York field office. 5 sources familiar with the matter told NBC. He was a former Marine, a highly regarded leader in the FBI, and he was told to either resign or be fired. But that wasn't enough for the Trump administration, because their plan was to basically blame Dennehy for covering up the Epstein files. They were going to defame him. So I want you to see how this is all coordinated, because now what they're going to do is they're going to blame the FBI and they're going to blame New York federal prosecutors and say they're the reason why stuff is missing and why things are redacted and files are not going to be there, in my opinion, and they're going to blame it on them. So this was all coordinated, in my view. You have MAGA Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna goes on the Matt Gaetz hosted show on OAN. Now, again, we know that Matt Gaetz, think about the coordination here, right? The ethics report about Matt Gaetz having sex with underage girls and his drug use and his obstruction of justice and him being with being with prostitutes while being a member of Congress, and then funneling the money to all these different people, which forced him out. Now, so he is now acting like outraged about the Epstein files. Matt Gaetz is doing it with Anna Paulina Luna. So I want you to watch when she talks about the FBI director in New York. They're talking about Dennehy. Play this clip.
To move, are you saying that there is a removal of an FBI director in New York right now because that person was frustrating the FBI and Department of Justice's release of this information pursuant to the president's directive?
As of right now, it appears to be so. And remind you, I just saw this being reported live on X, so I haven't had time to confirm it. It was literally just 1 minute before I came on the show.
So then after that, they then have the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, because she was taking all of the heat for not turning over the Epstein files and instead turning over that binder that the influencers were holding up. By the way, one of the influencers who got that binder was a lady who had previously reported on the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, who was wearing free Ghislaine Maxwell gear. Her name was Jessica Reed Krause, and she wore free Ghislaine gear. She was one of the people who got the special access to the Epstein files. But anyway, you then had Pam Bondi go on Jesse Waters. And first, let me show you how Jesse Waters kind of sets up the segment. And what Jesse Waters says first. And Jesse Waters then blames the New York field office, and he blames James Comey's daughter. He brings like James Comey's daughter into it. So now they're going to blame all of the missing Epstein files on the New York prosecutors, New York FBI. Play this clip.
So who's in charge at the New York FBI field office? who's withholding Epstein docs from the Attorney General. James Dennehy is running the show there. There he is. This is the guy who emailed his whole staff to dig in after Trump took office. And don't forget that James Comey's daughter is an assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. She worked on the Epstein and Maxwell cases. She's kind of knee deep in this. Epstein was facing sex trafficking charges in Lower Manhattan. Where's all that paperwork? The FBI seized computers, surveillance videos, banking records, file cabinets, and photographs from all of Epstein's properties in New Mexico, the Virgin Islands, Palm Beach, and in New York. The Justice Department also gave Epstein a sweetheart non-prosecution deal 17 years ago. Where are those files? The Bureau of Prisons. Where are those files? You remember where Epstein killed himself? I asked Bill Barr about that, why everything seemed to go wrong that night.
When I first heard all the information and all the coincidences here, I was suspicious.
What were the coincidences? I mean, those were a lot of coincidences.
Well, one of the cameras was out.
Right.
He was supposed to have a cellmate. The cellmate left. They didn't replace the cellmate. And the guards who were supposed to check him every half hour didn't check him.
My EMT source said he was on the scene immediately to pull Epstein's body out to the morgue. And when he got to the cell, he saw 7 people there touching Epstein's body and moving stuff around.
So sorry. Then you have Pam Bondi go on Hannity, and then she talks about how, you know, there's lots of people at the DOJ and FBI who don't like Trump, and that's the issue, and that there's all these deep state people. Here's this clip.
How do we restore these institutions to their former greatness?
Well, first and foremost, we got rid of the Jack Smith team. Gone. Yeah. Those people are gone. We're still trying to find out. There are a lot of people in the FBI and also in the Department of Justice who despise Donald Trump, despise us, don't want to be there. We will find them because you have to believe in transparency. You have to believe in honesty. You have to do the right thing. And right now we're going to root them out. We will find them and they will no longer be employed. But again.
And here she is now saying, I think we got all the files. I think we have all of the files now. Here, play this clip.
Let me start with the Epstein case because there was an expectation that this was going to be bigger. You had the same expectation.
Yeah, we all did. And the FBI handed over a couple hundred pages of documents. But, you know, Sean, I gave them a deadline of Friday at 8 a.m. to get us everything. And a source had told me where the documents were being kept. Southern District of New York, shock. So we got them all by, hopefully all of them, Friday at 8 a.m., thousands of pages of documents. I have the FBI going through them, and Cash is also, now that we have Cash here, it's a game changer, of course, and Cash is going to, Director Patel is going to get us a detailed report as to why the FBI withheld all of those documents.
Okay.
But you see what this is really about now is the files were not released when they were supposed to be. If the files go missing, you know who they're going to blame it on. Now they've got their entire base focused on this incredibly well-respected FBI agent who was just defending his staff from the firings for investigating January 6th insurrectionists. They're going after the SDNY, the federal prosecutors from New York. And what are they trying to cover up here? I mean, the things that we know about Donald Trump is that he was close with Epstein. I mean, you know, look at these photos. This is Donald Trump with contestants also in the 1991 Elite Look of the Year competition. I mean, a still from previously unseen footage of this competition that was at the Trump place. I mean, you know, like what grown man throws events with like little girls in bathing suits like that? Like, that's disgusting stuff. I mean, here are all these photos of Donald Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein together. I mean, they were close together. But now they're going to blame or put the blame on Comey's daughter, this incredibly distinguished FBI agent, and they're going to push all the blame there. I wanted you to see what they're doing as part of their cover-up when I think these files ultimately don't get released or there's going to be heavy redactions. And now they've come up with their plan of just say, hey, it's the FBI, the deep state, this guy. But really, they're picking scapegoats. and associating these people with incredible reputations now with Epstein as part of, like, to me, defamatory tactics of trying to harm their reputation just because they stood up for the law and order against Trump's other unlawful requests. I know it may be convoluted, but you can see what they were doing there, I hope. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.MeidasTouch.com. All 100% USA union made.